For the debate, the member from Orléans.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and it's an honor to rise this afternoon to debate the 2024 budget. You know, Madam Speaker, blessed are our children because they will inherit this government's massive debt. Our kids will be paying for this government's record massive spending and deficits, likely for the rest of their lives. This Conservative government is now projecting a deficit of $8.8 billion. Now, Madam Speaker, never, ever, never in the history of Ontario, has the government borrowed so much money to achieve so little. In fact, Madam Speaker, the Premier is about to become the biggest spending Premier in modern Ontario history. That's right. He's spending money and running deficits that would make Kathleen Wynne and Bob Rae blush, Madam Speaker. Program spending will be higher than it was when compared to GDP. Program spending will be higher than it was during any of the years that Kathleen Wynne was Premier. It will be even higher. It will be even higher than 2010. And remember what happened in 2010. 2010 was during the global economic financial meltdown. This was when governments of all partisan colors from one side of the country, from one side of the planet to the next side of the planet, were spending money to stimulate the economy, Madam Speaker. And this year's spending will be higher than that. Remember, Madam Speaker, during the economic crisis that started with the failure of those big American financial institutions, let's remember that crisis and something that was affecting Ontario greatly, something that the government at that day was spending money on to save Ontario jobs. And that was the auto sector, Madam Speaker. We remember how bad the auto sector in North America, how bad the auto sector here in Ontario was affected during that Great Recession of 2008 and 2010, the last time spending got anywhere close to this high. And the reason I raise that, Madam Speaker, as an important point is that at that time, when Canada and Ontario came together to invest $3.3 billion to save the auto sector in Ontario, to save tens of thousands of jobs here in the province, when program spending was that high to save those jobs and to save the auto sector, who was against it? It was the Ontario Conservative Party, Madam Speaker. They were against program spending that high. They were against saving the auto industry. And lo and behold, 15 years later, now that they're in government, they're spending even more money. They're spending so much money, Madam Speaker, they don't know where it's all going. So, they voted against saving the auto industry. They voted against the spending to save the economy after the massive financial crisis of 2008 and 2010. And now they're spending even more money than they ever did back then. And frankly, Madam Speaker, they're making it rain. They're making it rain across Ontario, and everyone's getting wet. Everyone's getting wet because we don't know where the money's going. And I'd like to just suggest, Madam Speaker, that I also be sharing my time with my good friend from Ottawa South this afternoon. So, Madam Speaker, this government's spending money like never before. They're spending money like it's going out of fashion. They're spending money like it's water. And what are we getting for it? What are we getting for it? 2.2 million Ontarians don't have a family doctor or primary health practitioner. Emergency rooms are closing across the province, Madam Speaker. Sometimes for a couple hours, sometimes for a day, sometimes for a weekend. You never know where the emergency rooms are closing. Emergency room closing soon in your neck of the woods, Madam Speaker. We remember a Conservative Party that was against high hydro prices. Well, now hydro prices are higher than they've ever been. Hydro prices are higher than they've ever been And this is despite the fact that this government is using billions of dollars of income taxes to try to keep them low. So they're running massive deficits, taking income taxes that could be hiring doctors, income taxes that could be hiring teachers and building schools and building highways, and they're using that to save a couple bucks a month on your hydro prices, and your hydro prices are still the highest they've ever been. The cost of rent is going up, Madam Speaker. The cost of buying a home is going up. The cost of buying groceries is going up. You can't even go to the beer store and buy a beer for the price the Premier said he would have, Madam Speaker. You can't look down your nose. You can't drink a beer and look down without looking down your nose in another broken Conservative promise, Madam Speaker. That's how far off the fiscal cliff these guys have gone. So they're spending money like no government has ever done in Ontario. 2.2 million people don't have a family doctor. Hydro prices are higher than they've ever been. The budget's not doing anything to provide relief for families. So where's all the money going? Where's all the money going? Well, we know that some of it's going to the Premier's office, Madam Speaker. We know that some of it's going to the Premier's office because, lo and behold, the Premier who decried the length and depth of the Sunshine List in 2017 before he was Premier has seen a massive, enormous, some might say historical jump in the number of people on the Sunshine List. And Madam Speaker, a bunch of them work for the Premier. His office budget has gone up. It's doubled since last year. His office went from 20 staff to, 48 staff, I think now, in a year. And every one of those people, every single person who works for the Premier makes more as an individual than the average Ontario family does in a year. Some of them make double the average. Some of them make triple the average. Some of them make quadruple the average Ontario family. That's not a government that's concerned about minding their purse, Madam Speaker. That's not a government that's watching the pennies or the dollars. That's a government that's lost all fiscal responsibility. They're out of control, and our kids are going to be paying their deficits for the rest of their lives. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.